Tottenham Hotspur nearly went down. 2 straight seasons finishing 17th, 3 different managers in one campaign, and a run so bad it flirted with the club's first relegation since 1977. And yet, by the time you finish watching this, I want you to walk away believing Spurs, yes, that Tottenham, could be the most dangerous team in the Premier League this season. Not the best, not the favorites, the most dangerous. There's a difference, and it comes down to one name, Roberto De Zerbi. Welcome to Football Detailing. Let's get started. Quick rewind, because context matters here. Back in March 2026, Tottenham were 1 point above the relegation zone. They'd just been thumped 3-0 at home by Nottingham Forest, and they were on a 13-game winless run, the joint second longest in the club's history. Igor Tudor lasted 44 days as interim boss before he was gone. And into that mess walked Roberto De Zerbi, a manager who'd been out of work since leaving Marseille the month before. Now, on paper, that's a bizarre appointment. You don't usually hand a possession-obsessed idealist the keys to a relegation fight. But De Zerbi did the job, kept Spurs up, and then straight away signed a 5-year deal, telling everyone the DNA of this club is to attack and score goals. He wasn't hired to grind out one more week of survival football. He was hired to rebuild the identity of the whole club. That's what makes this season different. This isn't a manager still finding his feet. This is De Zerbi, with a full preseason behind him, a full transfer window, and total control of the direction. So what does he actually bring, tactically? Before he arrived, Tottenham were averaging under 50% possession, they ranked 14th in the league for progressive passes, and they leaned heavily on long balls and set pieces just to score. That's a team with no real attacking plan. De Zerbi is basically the opposite of that in every way. At Sassuolo, at Shakhtar, at Brighton, at Marseille, his teams have always built around a 3-2-5 shape in possession, flooding the width and the half spaces to overload defenses, while almost inviting the opposition to come and press them. It's the famous press baiting idea. We're winning the ball back in the final third more than any other team under a single manager in the league. Small sample, sure, but a real signal. Watch the win at Aston Villa in May. Forwards blocking central passing lanes, midfielders stepping up together in waves, fullbacks pushing high with a midfielder tucking in behind to cover. That's De Zerbi's fingerprints all over it. So the bet is simple. Take a team that spent 2 years defending deep and hoping for a set piece, and turn it into a team that dominates the ball, drags opponents out of position, and hunts in packs when it loses possession. That's a complete reversal of what Tottenham have looked like for the last 2 seasons, and it's exactly why this team is going to be uncomfortable to play against. Nobody's going to get an easy afternoon sitting off Spurs anymore. There's actually a bit of debate over what shape De Zerbi settles on here, and it matters because it changes how certain players get used. His gut instinct is that 3-2-5, fullbacks pushing on to make it a back 3, 2 holding midfielders rotating behind, 5 players spread across the width and the final third. But some of what we've seen from him at Spurs so far suggests he might lean toward a more familiar 4-2-3-1, at least early on, to get the most out of technical players like Xavi Simons and a returning Mohamed Kudus, using tight passing combinations to break teams down rather than pure positional overload. Either way, the principles don't change. Patient build-up, comfort on the ball under pressure, and no more just hoofing it long when things get sticky. That's a genuine culture shift for a squad that, under the old regime, was playing over 12% of its passes long and scoring more than a third of its goals from dead balls. De Zerbi wants goals created through play, not just corners and free kicks, and that alone should make Spurs a far harder team to scout and prepare for. Now let's be fair about the other side of this, because dangerous cuts both ways. De Zerbi's system asks defenders to play out from the back under real pressure, constantly. Everton and Marseille teams were thrilling, no doubt, but they were also leaky at times. Chaotic games where both boxes see plenty of action. For a Tottenham squad that's just spent 2 years flirting with relegation, where confidence is still shaky, there's a genuine chance this doesn't click straight away. That's basically been the entire theme of pre-season. De Zerbi has been open about the priority being fitness, avoiding injuries, and getting the new signings comfortable with the system before a brutal opening run of fixtures. If Spurs cough up sloppy goals playing out from the back in September, expect plenty of noise around whether this approach can actually survive the Premier League. That's the trade-off with De Zerbi. Huge upside, but almost no room for a slow start. Then there's the injury picture. Xavi Simons, one of the players who looked tailor-made to thrive as a creative hub in this system, is currently out long-term with an ACL injury, which really stings given how well his profile fits what De Zerbi wants between the lines. That puts extra pressure on James Maddison, who's only just back from a serious injury of his own, but was Tottenham's best creative outlet before he got hurt, chipping in 7 assists in 2024-25. If either of those two struggle for fitness or form early, Spurs' attacking structure could look a lot less fluid than all this transfer business suggests it should. Here's where it gets genuinely exciting, because Spurs haven't just changed manager. They've rebuilt the squad from the ground up around this philosophy, spending well over £200 million already this summer. The 2 headline signings are both club records, and remarkably, they happened in the space of a single week. Sandro Tonali joined from Newcastle for a fee that could rise to £100 million, breaking Tottenham's transfer record outright. Funny enough, Tonali actually made his professional breakthrough at Brescia, De Zerbi's hometown club, and the two clearly go back a long way. Tonali described the phone call about joining as feeling like magic. Then there's Matheus Fernandes, in from West Ham for around £85 million, a young, technically gifted midfielder that sporting director Johan Lange has called a player of outstanding ability and maturity, and someone De Zerbi says is comfortable under pressure and has the courage to make things happen. Add those two together, and that's £185 million spent purely rebuilding the midfield engine that has to actually run this system. The defensive rebuild has been just as aggressive. Jan-Paul van Hecke arrived from Brighton for around £52 million to link back up with his old manager, a genuinely excellent ball-playing centre-back who knows precisely what De Zerbi wants from a defender in possession. Argentine centre-back Marcos Senesi joined on a free transfer after 4 really solid seasons at Bournemouth, and Scotland captain Andy Robertson arrived on a free after his Liverpool contract ran out, bringing serious leadership and Premier League know-how at left-back. Add in some goalkeeping depth and a few other pieces, and Tottenham have essentially rebuilt an entire spine of the team specifically for this style of football. Defenders who are comfortable playing under pressure, exactly what De Zerbi's football demands. Just as telling as who's coming in is who's on the way out, because it tells you exactly which parts of the old Tottenham simply don't fit anymore. Christian Romero, one of the club's most high-profile players in recent years, looks set to leave, with Inter Milan long-term favorites to land him for something in the region of £43 million, even though a few other big names have circled. Goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario also looks likely to depart after some costly errors last season, with De Zerbi expected to put his faith in Antonin Kinski as the long-term number 1 instead. Lucas Bergvall, once tipped as one of the most exciting young midfielders in the country, has basically requested a move, and his reasoning is honest. With Tonali and Fernandes both arriving in his position, and Spurs not in Europe this season, he doesn't want to spend a year stuck on the bench. Nottingham Forest and Newcastle have already had bids turned down for him. Jed Spence and Richarlison are also strongly linked with exits, as De Zerbi trims this squad down to players who both fit the system and actually want to be there. He's been blunt about it too. His message has essentially been that anyone not fully committed to the project should leave. This is a genuine squad overhaul, not a token refresh. De Zerbi is stripping out the players whose games were built for a deeper, more reactive Tottenham, and swapping them for players built for control, patience, and taking calculated risks with the ball. Worth explaining why so much of this is happening in central midfield specifically, because it's not really about attitude or form, it's simple maths. Before this window, Tottenham already had established options in Rodrigo Bentancur and Pape Matar Sarr, both regular starters, with Bentancur a key figure in that pressing structure De Zerbi showed off against Villa. Now add Tonali and Fernandes, plus Conor Gallagher, who only just signed and isn't going anywhere, and suddenly De Zerbi's got 5 or 6 senior midfielders competing for 2 or 3 starting spots, Something has to give. That's a big part of why Bergvall pushed to leave, despite being one of the most talented young players to come through the academy in years. And it's why there's persistent chatter around Sarr and Bentancur too, even if De Zerbi seems reluctant to actually sell either of them. It's a nice problem to have from a depth perspective, but it also tells you how seriously the club has invested in getting this one department right. De Zerbi clearly sees a dominant, technically secure midfield as the foundation everything else gets built on. And here's the part that should really get Spurs fans excited. De Zerbi has said openly that the club isn't finished. After spending over £200 million on midfield and defense, the next job is the attack. Tottenham have been strongly linked with a wide reinforcement, with Manchester City winger Savinho reportedly in advanced talks, while a few other attacking names have been floated throughout the window, as Spurs look to land at least one more significant creative or goal-scoring piece before deadline day on September 1st. The logic's simple, really. De Zerbi now has the midfield control and the defensive platform he wants. The last piece is someone who can actually turn all that territorial dominance into goals against a set Premier League backline. With Vicario expected to leave, Tottenham will likely lean on Antonin Kinski as their long-term option in goal. But given how central ball-playing ability is to this whole system, where even the goalkeeper acts as an extra defender starting attacks under pressure, don't be shocked if there's more activity there before deadline day too. Every position on the pitch, right down to the keeper, is being judged by the same question. Can this player do what De Zerbi asks under pressure, in tight spaces, against a Premier League press? That one question has basically driven every transfer decision Tottenham have made this summer. So put it all together, a manager with a genuinely proven attacking philosophy who's already saved this club from relegation once. A squad rebuilt from back to front, with record signings specifically suited to his system. Big-name departures clearing out anyone who doesn't fit. And a summer of spending that isn't even finished yet. Tottenham opened the season away at Brentford on August 22nd, then get their first home game of the campaign against Newcastle a week later, and honestly, every neutral fan should be tuning in for those games. Nobody's calling Spurs title favorites here. Nobody should. But a team that presses in coordinated waves, dominates the ball in a bold 3-2-5 shape, and has spent over £200 million assembling players built exactly for that system, that's not a team any Premier League side is going to want to face. That's why, heading into 2026-27, Tottenham Hotspur are the most dangerous team in the Premier League. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more Premier League tactical analysis, and let me know in the comments. Do you buy the hype, or do you think De Zerbi's system gets exposed in the Premier League? See you in the next one.